Well, well. This is what you get when you get a government that is obsessed with short-term wins and not wanting to tell people the bad news or something that is coming down the road and maybe warning them about it, telling them the truth. I think it was Abraham Lincoln. It might have been Abraham Lincoln. I can't remember if it was now or not, who said that when you tell people the truth, at least try and make them laugh. That way, they won't kill you. Now, I don't know for 100% sure if that was Abraham Lincoln who said that or not. I might be completely misquoting who actually, said that. But in this case, we have had a government who has actively not increased gas storage, but reduced gas storage by selling off all this land and dismantling gas storage sites across the country all the way back in 2017 after being warned by select committees, by experts, that you could leave the UK open to the exact type of scenario we are currently facing. And now, as we head into what could be a very cold winter, and trust me, the Tories are praying that it is going to be, at least remain, as warm as possible for as long as possible. They are hoping for a warm winter because they are not going to like what they are probably going to have to do during this time. We've already got gas companies extending the time where they might have to have blackouts. That is going to cause lots of damage. And the government is currently trying to even deny the fact that they are planning for such eventualities. So let's get into this news story and find out what new denials they are trying to make, because we can already see in the future the government will have to warn people about rationing and asking sort of to use less, even though it desperately does not want to do that. But far better to tell people the truth and at least be honest with people. And then, you might have to, dare I say, make plans and policy to solve this problem. But of course, that would never cross the Tories' mind to do things like that. So anyway, let's get into this news that came out today. So this comes from the Guardian with the title of "Energy Use is a Decision for Individuals. Insist Number 10 and Truss allies." I mean, you can tell the point, by the way. This is just beside the point. You can already tell that Liz Truss has won this, and they all know Liz Truss has won it. It's pointless dragging this out any longer. Liz Truss won this, at least 2 weeks ago at this point. Just end this nonsense and just call it already. Please, just end this. Just put her in. Just let her implode. But anyway, we get on to it. So, Number 10 and allies of Liz Truss are resisting the idea that people should be asked to cut their energy use, with the government insisting that the consumption of gas and electricity is a decision for individuals. While the threat of shortages is possible this winter, officials have raised the option of the UK public being requested to reduce their energy uses after countries in the EU, including France and Germany, were asked to cut gas demand by 15%. People across Europe have been urged to switch off lights and use appliances less often after all member states, apart from Hungary, agreed to a voluntary cut in usage. However, Kersey Kwarteng, the business secretary, who is likely to be Truss's next chancellor, is opposed to such a move, believing it is not necessary for the UK and that energy should be up to individuals. Asked whether people should reduce how much energy they use, given the high cost and the worries about supply, a spokesperson for Boris Johnson said on Monday, quote, "These decisions in terms of energy consumption remain decisions for individuals. Households, businesses, and industry can be confident that they will have the electricity and gas they need." A comment that will come back to haunt them, no doubt, at this point. And by the way, it's something that we haven't really touched on. Of course, the big problem here is to do with households. Definitely, that is something that, we have been talking about predominantly when it comes to talking about this rising costs. But businesses and industry are also going to be taking a massive loss and suffering hugely because of this. I mean, we've often talked before on this channel about decarbonizing the steel industry. But here's the thing, these furnaces that they use to sort of, create and make the steel can't be turned off. These furnaces have to run 24/7. You can't just turn them off and then turn them back on again. That's not how they work. And as a result, the steel industry in the UK uses massive amounts of energy. And one of the things that decarbonisation would do and would help the steel industry to do is help them to move to more green sources of energy, to help lower their energy costs, and to again help make carbon neutral steel, so that when you are making steel, there's this massive offset between how much pollution is pumped out versus what product you get of the steel. The idea is to make steel carbon neutral so that you aren't using vast amounts of electricity to be able to do this, and to sort of invest in sort of furnaces that are more energy efficient, more green energy source, and all different types of stuff that you could do to aid this in transition. Are the government interested in doing that? No. I'm a massive advocate, as I've said many times before, for the decarbonisation of the steel industry in the UK. I think it would be a massive boost to UK industry as a whole and help out a lot of these left behind areas that the government claim that they're so fond of. But anyway, back to it. So the government favours a plan put forward by the National Grid to incentivise households with smart meters to save energy by paying them to use appliances at off-peak times. We support the National Grid in developing all options that could benefit consumers and help reduce energy bills by spreading out peak demand, Number 10 said. Concern about energy security has risen since the report was leaked to Bloomberg, showing the government has prepared crisis plans and modelling for situations where businesses and even consumers could face blackouts this winter. Under the government's latest reasonable worst-case scenario, officials believed that the UK could experience blackouts for several days in January if cold weather combined with gas shortages to leave the country short on power. At the same time, annual energy bills are forecast by one analyst, Alec Toons, to top off at £6,000 next year, triggering Labour to warn that Britons face severe hardship on a massive scale if the government does not intervene. Advising households on how to cut energy uses have previously been attempted back in a 1922 committee report published back in April, led by Andrea Leadsom. And the former Energy Secretary, the Department for Business and Energy Industry Strategy, the BESI committee she chaired, proposed that there should be an improved guidance on cutting energy uses, better access to existing education and incentive schemes, clear messaging on money-saving ideas such as turning off radiators in unused rooms, reducing pressure on hot water taps, and reducing radiator settings on boiling gas in between 55 and 65 to optimize energy output. The committee also suggested stronger public messaging on the advantage of smart meters and pressured on energy companies to being forced to having smart tariffs. Leadsom said on Monday that there was a really strong case for these measures. However, politicians can be sensitive about public perceptions for asking for people to use less energy. Some energy bosses have been pilloried for giving tips on keeping warm, such as putting on jumpers, doing star jumps, and cuddling pets, or even eating porridge. In the EU, Brussels has urged governments to launch campaigns to encourage people to switch off lights and turn down thermostats and air conditioning. Industry users may also be given targets to reduce heating and cooling. And EU governments are being urged to speed up the switch to renewable energies, but are also being asked to consider delaying their exit from nuclear power or even coal in an effort to alleviate the effect of Russian gas. If the government insists that power cuts and energy shortages are to be extremely unlikely, however, Adam Bell, the former senior official at the Institute, told the BBC's PM programme that he thought there was about a 1 in 10 chance of seeing limited planned blackouts in certain parts of the country over the winter. He also said the right thing to do now is to get used to lowering our demand so that we can eliminate this chance as much as possible. Bell said there were stages that could be gone through, including switching some industries off, and then export pipelines and then homes. But because we might be in a situation, there's lots of households that should be thinking about now how to minimize the likelihood. Turning down your thermostat by 1 degree, optimizing the throw of temperature in your boilers, as well as drought proofing where you can. The government spokesman said that households, businesses, and industry can be confident that the UK's secure and device energy supplies will provide electricity and gas as they need. Decisions on energy consumption rightly remain the matter of individuals, and we recognise that households have different energy usage needs. Why they are not advising people on this now, you can tell why. They need to be advising people on this now. If there is, as they said, a 1 in 10 chance, that's still quite likely of this happening, then they should be preparing people for this to happen. Why aren't the government planning for this? What happens if this is, happens more than once? What if this goes beyond the worst case scenario? How are the government going to act? And we've always said November is where this all kicks off. And I think going through this period, I think we are looking at some very, very serious consequences. I think we will be seeing mass protests on a massive scale. They are already being organized by Enough is Enough. I hope they don't develop into riots. I hope they don't. But given the feeling and the mood and the public towards the current government, I could see it happening. I could definitely see it happening. I could definitely see this going back to, you may remember, back in 2012 when we had the riots that kicked off almost spontaneously back then. That's a very real possibility that could happen. So, yeah, I don't want this to happen, but the government govern themselves into the situation, and now it's up to them to, help people out. And unfortunately, as we've said many, many times, there are not the people in the party willing enough to do these types of policies or even admit to the public what is really going on. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.